My name is Timothy Overholt, and I will be focusing on how the film Dances with Wolves employed the idea of the vanishing Indian and how the characterization of indigenous peoples reinforced colonialist narratives of history. Now, this convention of the vanishing Indian was a widely spread and accepted notion that, as civilization spreads and takes root in America, the savages that are the Native Americans are destined to be left behind as relics, outpaced by society and left for extinction. This is an idea that was spread and solidified. Civilization would expand and grow. The natives will go extinct. It's just the way things have to go. Now, George Catlin, a prolific painter in the mid 1800s who spent 6 years traveling west of the Mississippi to document these so called savages, is a great example of perpetuation for the vanishing Indian theory. He famously stated that, in reference to the Native Americans, they at last sunk into the earth, and the plowshare turning the sod over their graves. I have flown into their rescue, not of their lives or of their race, for they are doomed and must perish. Catlin stated the major point of the theory of the vanishing Indian here. These natives were not civilized enough to keep up with society, so they are to fall behind and die out, left for extinction. As for those watching, those that were on the other side on the other side of the coin, they wouldn't take pity on them, but rather try and capture their savagery as part of American culture before it was gone. These people were seen as a commodity, not as part of America as a whole. Now, for reference, the lecture History Through Film, Dances with Wolves defined the following as formal elements for film: plot, characters, set design, costuming, line, texture, color, and space. Now, in the scene of Dances with Wolves, just before Major Fambro's suicide, um, Lieutenant Dunbar had said to the Major that he wanted to go to the frontier to experience it and see what it was like before it was gone. Now, while not a direct reference of the Indians, it still captures the idea of the vanishing Indian, as the lieutenant says it so matter of factly. Even though there's fighting on the frontier, it won't last. The Indians have no way to keep up with the progress of society, so they are doomed to fail. And just like George Catlin had mentioned, well, these people were seen as a commodity. It was something to witness, not as an actual part of America. Now, the formal elements of this scene help to perpetuate this even further. This scene is set within a formal building of civilized military functionality, where the characters follow suit with their formal uniforms and statures. Compared to the Indians, the frontiersmen seem leagues more civilized, with an air of right about them, that they are set in their ways and are doing what has to be done. Contrarily, um, these civilized men are always in more gloomy and drab environments, with their dark buildings and deep blue uniforms. The Indians, on the other hand, are always in brighter and more scenic environments, using color as a way to distinguish that the frontiersmen may not entirely be justified in their actions. Now, the idea of the vanishing Indian is very closely related to colonialism. With colonialism, you have things like manifest destiny that justify the expansion of civilization by saying, oh, it's God's will to expand and conquer. It's our right. In a similar sense, the vanishing Indian was a way of justifying the westward expansion, as it centered around the idea that the death and extinction of the natives was just natural as a course of action. Even in the movie's end screen, it said that 13 years later, their homes were destroyed, their buffalo gone, and the last band of Friso Indians submitted to white authority. It was just supposed to happen, so the frontiersmen did not dwindle to conquer the West and those within it.